Okay, ladies, in this video, we're going to talk about what submission should look like. Submission has become like a dirty word in our culture, and our society has made submission to be more about control and that women are inferior and the Bible and God are trying to hold women down, and society's trying to say, rise up, ladies, and don't take that from your husbands or your men. And the truth is, as we learned in another video, that submission is about choosing to yield to your husband, and ultimately choosing first to yield to God. And so inherent in the definition of submission really is a choice, women, that we are making, that we choose to say, I recognize God has a way that the family and the marriage should work, and husbands are the leaders in that, and so I choose to yield to that and allow him to be the leader, but I have plenty of things to do to help him to be the best leader he can be. So I think it's good for us to talk about what does submission look like? And let's talk first about what it is not, because I think informing ourselves on what we've maybe bought into, what our culture's tried to tell us about submission, is actually not what God's intention is at all. It is not about your husband having control of you. God's design for how that should look in marriage is not at all about wives being under the thumb of their husbands and that you're this weak being that has no value to add. Husbands are to put their wives ahead of themselves. So it's not about being lorded over. In no way, shape, or form is God's purpose or design for a wife submitting to a husband, submitting to a man that doesn't care about her, that doesn't love her and doesn't value her. It's the opposite. God's saying, wives, submit to your husbands as they love you in this beautiful way that God designed it to be, that's selfless and sacrificial, that's putting the wife's needs ahead of the husband. Now, I recognize for some of you, you may be in a marriage where you don't have a husband that loves you that way, and no husband's going to love perfectly all the time. But we're talking about this in the context of what God's purpose and design is. God calls husbands to a much greater challenge, if you ask me, to love in a selfless, sacrificial way, to put the wife's needs ahead of their own. So ladies, think about submission in the right context here, that husbands aren't being left off the hook here. God's not just saying this is a male-dominated thing and we don't care about women. He has it designed to work in a beautiful tandem between wives submitting and letting husbands lead, and husbands loving the way Christ loved the church. And if you don't feel like that's present in your own marriage right now, or maybe one or both of you has a misunderstanding of that, then go to the Bible and read passages like Ephesians chapter 5. Talk to your pastor, marriage mentor, somebody about that, and really start applying that in the right way. And understand submission in the way God intends it, which is not about control, and it's not about the husbands just getting everything they want and wives getting nothing. I mean, I think you have to go all the way back to Genesis chapter 2 to know that we are created, all of us are created in the image of God. And that when Eve was created, God called her the helpmate to Adam. God has a design for how the husband and wife team should work, and there's value to both of them. And the wife brings talents, abilities, insights that the husband doesn't have, and together they become one, and together they're better than if they're separate. So wives, don't misunderstand that submission then is about you're just this weakling that has nothing to say or nothing to offer. You have lots to offer. And part of what you have to offer is that you allow your husband to lead and you make him the best leader he can be. You help him to have where maybe he's weak or lacks some insight, or help with the kids, or maybe you're better at managing money, however that looks in your marriage, that you are helping your husband to lead your family in the best way he can. It's not about him doing all the work and you're just sitting there like, okay, whatever. You're playing an active part in that. You're not the inferior being with nothing to offer. So don't forget that in the context of submission. God created you with amazing abilities and talents, and you're going to make your husband better. And so recognize that that's an act of worship, that you, in response to how you treat your husband, how you allow him to operate in his roles as you operate in yours, is part of your way of you say, I love you, God. And maybe some days I don't understand it, or maybe you're in a marriage where your husband's not really leading really well, that you can still say at the end of the day, God, to be submitted to you and to be obedient to you is an act of worship. And to get the help that you need to maybe help create some new understanding of what love and submission should look like. But know at the end of the day that for you in your own heart, it's an act of worship in how you view submission, how you treat your husband, how you treat the roles in your marriage. It's your way of saying, God, I love you. I honor you. I want to honor you as a wife. I want to honor you as a mom. I want to honor you in every role that I play. Submission is part of what you're called to do as a woman and as a wife. So embrace it, don't fight it, understand it, and pray to have more understanding about it, but embrace it as part of your act of worship to a holy God.